Welcome, friends, to the Soul Talk podcast, a show where we explore and uncover the path to the heart, amplifying your conscience. Join me as we meet incredible souls who are in this journey and learn from their experience and different methods that will make you vibrate your heart. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love, and thank you for being again in Soul Talk. And today we have a colleague. Her name is Cappi Pidwell. I hope I say it right. And she have a very interesting career, and she do very interesting stuff that I would like to she tell you with her own words exactly what does she do and how she got here. Cappy, thank you for being here in Soul Talk, and please tell us a little bit about your career. What do you do?
Thank you so much, first off, for having me. And I always love to contribute to audiences. So thank you so much. I am today a master of NLP and a master hypnotherapist, which I've been doing for 30 years now. But today I mostly speak on mindset more than I do, one-on-one sessions like I did for so many years. But we were chit-chatting just a moment ago before we hopped on here with your audience, and I was sharing that I think for anyone who is evolved and doing work really more at the soul level, it is a journey. I think some people have an easier journey monetizing that and getting there, but 30 years ago, this was not a common conversation. So I went through a personal hypnosis session I had lockjaw really bad. And I was in sales and someone said, oh, go try it. And I thought, oh, come on, even though I always had a strong intuition, I was in the corporate world. And so I went to the doctor. I did all the traditional things. And then I thought, wow, what if I go get a session and it works? Well, one session later, my jaw popped open and it fascinated me. So I started thinking, well, what else can I use this for? And so I started studying hypnosis. I love it. I fell in love with it. Went to school. I went to the American Institute of Hypnotherapy, used to be here in Irvine. And then I studied under some really amazing people back in the day, which, today everything's online. So it was a different world. So I feel like I got trained by some of the best out there. And then I started going into, companies and talking about mindset back in the day before everybody was a speaker. There really weren't, especially women out there speaking on personal development and that type of thing. So um, today, excuse me, today I mostly speak. I do interviews like this. I have a book called The Mindset Code that's on Amazon, and that's endorsed by Stedman Graham, which is Oprah's life partner. That was a big blessing. So through the years of helping so many people really connect to their soul purpose and their life journey, if you will. I do a lot in the career arena. I work with a ton of salespeople, entrepreneurs, business builders, if you will, and business owners. So that's really who I've ended up being around speaking to, because I think that more companies are bringing personal development, not a lot, and a deeper sense of soul to that arena. It's such a different energy, right? So I try to bring a piece in that complements their current training by bringing mindset. I make custom programs for companies. So that's primarily what I do today. But I mean, I still have online products and I do, events and stuff, but I don't do a lot of one-on-ones anymore.
Yes, I bet that not many companies are open to change the mindset of their employees. Only the business that actually care to become even better and produce better and having the happiness also the same employees are the ones that are going to be hire people like us.
Yes. Yes. And it's not easy to find, but it's getting more common. I will say that. And of course, having my book endorsed by Stedman and, having a book to give to the audiences is helpful because it's a way. My book's really a walkthrough chapter. It's a short book, but it's really the steps I train people on pick the topic you want to work on. Chapter 2 is all about your mindset, discover your programs. It's pretty simple for people to walk through those processes. So I do think that more people are becoming open to, I mean, look at our mental health issue and our, all the things that people are going through. The stress is, just so high. I mean, and I know that the conscious collectiveness is changing. It has to. So we have a lot of that energy happening. And yet, people all want the same thing. I think no matter how old we are, where we work, who we are, where we live, we all want the same thing. We want to be happy. We want to feel connected. We want to be loved. We want to make a difference. And I truly believe we all have a genius. We all have something to contribute. So I approach it in a way that makes it logical. But once I get in there, it's not very logical. It's very experiential for people.
And it is funny to, in this time, you still find people like, oh, no, I don't have traumas. No, my life is perfect.
Right.
And that's the part that always uh, not trigger me, it is surprise me every time I encounter that, because even being born, it is a trauma in there.
Yes.
It is a life change, and you were a baby inside the uterus, and you were there, and then suddenly you came out to the life. That it is a trauma that many people do not even realize that have that.
Yes.
We are, as humans, we have different traumas and different programming already unveiled in our subconscious, and
Mhm.
that's why I cannot see it so clearly.
Yes.
And that's where
Absolutely.
the part that we, and it goes in layers, not because you went to a one session, it's like, oh, that's it, you're
Right.
magical heal and cure, and you're
Mm.
not going to find nothing underneath, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people that this is a journey. Like our soul is here in this physical form to go on this journey. But I think, as you mentioned, a lot of people that don't want to go there or look there, um, they've learned to not look at their own truth and live in, I think, I don't want to call it denial, but maybe it's safer for people to not look or experience that. Oh, I don't need to think about that, whatever. But I think emotionally, we are not taught to be emotional masters of our mindset for sure. And that does include healing, peeling through those layers, discovering, and that's part of what I do in my systems. I create, like I call it a belief book. I write a book for people to start to identify. It's not about putting new data in, it's about what's already stored there, like you're saying. And then how do I process that data or get rid of or release or whatever. But like you say, it's not like it goes away, but I can certainly turn down the emotional energy of an event or a trauma, like you probably can for somebody. And now we've got some room to say to that person, what can you begin to believe? Like the belief isn't going to change in a second, but that's why I love hypnosis so much, because the language patterns, right? And the things that the subconscious goes, oh, I can begin to believe that works. Like there's no resistance in that versus begin believing you're a millionaire or whatever, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with the energy and the frequency and the things that I say to people, that their outcomes are very extraordinary. I've helped thousands and thousands of people, as I'm sure you have over the years. But I think for me, because I work with a lot of practitioners, around, and it's so cool because I can do one thing, then you can do one thing, my friend can do another, right? So I'm not the one answer or the thing, but if someone's on that journey, I feel like it's always such a blessing and a gift to be a contribution to their journey.
Just because we all have blind spots, even as a
Big
coaches
time.
or healers or practitioners, we all have blind spots,
Mhm.
and we might see something in a client, and but other practitioners going to see something else, because there are
Yes.
layers over layers over layers.
Yes. And the frequencies are different, right? So what I might feel or notice in someone, you might say, oh no, but do you see that? And I might be like, no, right? Because I always say, when I'm working with somebody, I can only teach you from my level of knowing. Yeah. And there's just so many layers of wonderful healers and channelers and data out there now that, we didn't have the access like we do today.
Yes.
So I think you're absolutely right. And no matter who we are or what we know, we're all on this journey. I say it's like if we were miners and we had those lights on our heads, it's kind of the same thing. Just turn them around because there's always someone in front of you and you're shining your light on someone behind you, right? And where are they in their journey? Yeah, but I love being able to connect with people like yourself and audiences that are really looking for a deeper level of themselves to how do they create or have or be or create the life they want, really. And I think a lot of people settle, I know some people, as I'm sure you do, that stay married for the wrong reasons, or they're, oh, I'm afraid to be alone, or I don't want to lose a house or money or whatever. And I'm not saying that's good or bad or right or wrong, but I could never sell my emotional soul or self for anything that didn't feel right for me. I just couldn't. And I think when we learn to trust ourselves and tap into our intuition and really come from, it's not what you're going to. I always say it's what you're coming from. Yeah. You come from the energy you want, then those miracles constantly unfold. I mean, that's how I've learned to live my life, certainly. And it's not always easy. I mean, it's not.
It is because there is a lot of fear behind there.
Yes.
In the fear, it is how I'm gonna leave that job, and I might not get a new job or
Yeah.
a better job or whatever it is. And that fear get people stuck,
Yes.
or marriage or home or city or country, whatever it is that they need to move on, because in a way that life will spit you out and you can stay there forever in the same city, in the same job, in the same marriage, but all your being is telling you you need to get out of there or move on, and the fears are the one that gonna make you stay.
Yes. Yes. And so, I think that's part of our, why people come to people, like me and other people like you that are looking for that insight. And I always say that we all have the answers within, but sometimes we need the validation, right? Or the support, or like you say, somebody else's perspective. I know when I was young and married, I had two little kids, and I ended up getting out of a divorce and had a house and little kids and all the whole thing. But, most of the people around me were saying, don't go, Cappi, blah, blah, blah. And everything in me was saying go. And so then later, of course, finding out, what was actually happening in my marriage, that was a whole nother story. But I'm so grateful when I look back that I listened, as difficult as it was. And I would say that for all the things I've done, leaving my corporate job. And, I didn't know how to sell, hypnosis and sessions, but I had a sales background. So I started doing talks in real estate offices and at sales, meetings for car companies. I started going to sales things. And then I started speaking on, a mindset for success, and that kind of opened doors. And, it was a journey along the way. But, had I not had that traditional corporate training, I probably would have never been able to get out there. But I think it's just really trusting your soul, trusting yourself. And I think that's a lot of our journey.
What would you tell people that are looking to do that change of mindset and they still have a lot of fear
Mhm.
uh, to let go whatever situation they are?
Well, I think honor that feeling. I think what we try to do, excuse me, what we often try to do is ignore how we feel. And I know, it's like you have to honor the emotion. Fear is a real feeling. But do we make our decisions out of fear? Do we constantly come from fear when we're deciding? Well, then the outcome's probably not going to be great. So, what I tell people is feel it first, pay attention to where it is in your body, in your head, in your back, or whatever, and talk to it. It's okay to be afraid, but it's almost like if you have a little child sitting in the corner and it's crying, are you going to let it cry, or are you going to pick it up and hug it? And I feel like our emotions are the same. Sometimes we just need to embrace them and say, I'm scared, or I don't really consciously or logically think I want this outcome, but everything inside of me is saying go there. Right. And that's where I feel it's learning to trust yourself. So feel the feeling, journal, listen to some soft music, let your soul speak to yourself. We have an inner voice and we have an external voice, but we don't listen to that inner voice, often. So I always feel the feeling first. And then after I go, okay, that's the fear on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 12, right? It's okay. I have this feeling. What would I prefer to feel if I wanted a business, if I wanted to increase whatever? What would the feeling be that I would prefer to feel? I would prefer to feel confident. I would prefer to feel like I got this. So it's talking to ourselves, like our inner coach, if you will. And then writing those things down. What do you want? A lot of times, and you probably know this as well, when you ask somebody what they want, a lot of people don't even know what they want. They know what they don't want. I don't want this job. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to, whatever. But like, what, get clear. So I think it's okay to feel the fear and then decide how you would prefer to feel, and then make decisions out of that energy, out of that other energy. So if I were super confident, what would I do? If I didn't have this fear and I felt fabulous today, what would I create? Things like that.
I just encounter one of my clients that this take me to this question. Since he was a little boy, he was never there. Every time he dream about, like, like little kid, like, what do you want to be as an adult? I want to be Superman, or I want to be a cop, or I want to be fireman, or whatever it is that young kids always wanted to become something like that. He didn't have permission to.
Mm.
So he never had permission to dream. So now we're talking about an adult that you're asking, what do you want? And he doesn't know what he wants because he
Oh.
never dared to dream, because it was prohibited since he was a little kid to dream what he wants to be. And then after him, I started encountering several people like that. It's like, oh my God, this is a tough one. Like, because it is not about trying to focus them on what do you want. It is, you have permission to dream.
Mm.
How do you work with people like that? It is very interesting. It's like, it's very different at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that if whatever our conditioning is, and again, I'm sure you know this, and I talk about it in my book, from the womb, in the womb, right, till 50% of our subconscious is developed. So half of our, think of a cell phone and you have so many apps downloaded, and it's the same thing. What happens is in the body, and, we don't know why we come into this body or this family, but we choose it to learn. And so if there's people around us that put our feelings out or don't encourage all that, that's part of their consciousness. Yeah. So as they get older, it's like saying to somebody, go play the piano, and nobody's ever taught them how to play the piano. I don't know how to play the piano. So it's a similar thing. So then what I would suggest in working with that person is, they might not be highly visual, but if they're thinkers, how would it feel if you could increase your imagination more? How would it feel if, you close your eyes? And again, I'm not certain of your process with people, but sometimes I say, see it, feel it, know it, sense it. And then people go, oh, I can do that. Like, I don't have to visualize, or I don't have to see myself being that fireman. No, but what would it feel like if, the deeper you go within, the more wisdom you came out with. So really raising the curiosity for people. And I often tell people, it's not like just finding the bad stuff. We had a lot of good stuff, right? So what was like their favorite memory from their earliest, recall? Like, what can they recall? Were they 5? Were they 10? I mean, I have a friend, he says, I don't remember anything like before junior high. I'm like, wow. So I think they just learned how to cope,
Yeah,
and that became the coping mechanism. So I don't feel, I don't talk, I don't think, and I don't want to remember. Well, because you're assuming it's all bad, but there's something that shut that feeling thing off, right?
yeah. And it is, I thought it was the only person, but then after him, when you experience one person, there comes more, and I was like, oh my God, what happened to all these people? They didn't have
Mm.
permission to dream.
Yeah, it's really sad. So
Yes.
if anything, then, as an adult, you get to choose now, right? And I mean, I love a good old pen and paper. Seriously, I write a lot. Have people write down if you could create whatever, what would it be? What would it look like? And sometimes I'll tell my clients, so excuse me, tell me, I'm just getting over being sick. Tell me what your ideal day would be. You'd get up at this time. Would you, what would you do in the morning? What would be ideal for you? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, create it, right? Would you get up at this time? Would you wake up at this time? Would you do this? No, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, then don't put it in there. You're the creator. And I tell all my clients that we have creator who creates the universe, but this mindset of yours is constantly creating your daily decisions, your habits, your outcomes, your income, your relationships. We're constantly creating. So if we know we have this powerful thing called a conscious and a subconscious and a soul, and we have this physical form that we get to go do everything through, why wouldn't we want to master that?
Hi everyone, this is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love. And if you have been feeling stuck where you are right now, or if you have felt that you cannot connect with others in the same language or the same emotions that you're feeling, if you're a coach, a healer, energy worker in any of those branches, maybe this is for you. Because we have felt the disconnection for the rest of our family, friends, that we cannot connect to them. And we're so afraid to actually go deep dive when we're getting triggered by our own clients because we're seeing our mirror image with them. My name is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love, and that's my spiritual name. And I take clients from feeling confused and feeling stuck to feeling free, to feeling that they feel empowered from themselves. I created a system, Path to the Heart, that goes in 3 levels. And the first level, it is healing the inner child, healing the parts of us that we've been so afraid or it's very painful to do it. I have done it myself, not only with me, and I have done it with many of my clients, that I take them to this process. The second level, it is to go more into inner self, clearing the family lineage, to breaking the contracts and vows, learning deeper more about the laws of the universe. And the third level, it is learning how to channel, how to do waking up your and getting online your gifts, your unique gifts that the world so much needs right now. So if you wanted to know more about this, I am eager to show you and to teach you all what I know that I use every day in my life. So thank you for being here in this page. I really appreciate it. And this is Monica Ramirez, the Warrior of Love. Yes, I'm passionate also about the subconscious mind, that it is fascinated. It is fascinating in all the different techniques now there are nowadays
Yeah.
to go deep inside in the subconscious mind because that's where it creates the change.
Yes.
In reality, yes, you can create it like in NLP, just in a talk therapy,
Mhm.
but the many of the real things are in the subconscious.
Totally. And I love hypnosis. I mean, it's been one of my favorite modalities, and I've done a lot of different things. But I love it because the power of suggestion, and then through the repetition, like, my clients always tell me, Cappi, sometimes I hear this, and then I'm like, because you're getting it at different layers every time you listen, right? That it's like new seeds of suggestions that are growing like a plant. Like, plant seeds in the garden and walk out the next day and be like, where's the tree? Right? It's the maturation and the growth that's happening under the ground that we can't even see is exactly what happens for people. So I think that's beautiful when there's tools and solutions for people, whatever works, right, for them to get the outcome. And that's always what I'm focused on, is how do I help the person get their needs or their outcomes and results. Yeah.
And there's too many the same time many blogs about this your specialty is sales.
Mm-hmm.
We yes,
And money. I mean, that's why I started doing it, because money conversation just gets in so many people's way. It's just such, and it's a big conversation to have. And yet not, I mean, I wasn't taught to sit around the table. I'm the fifth of six kids. And, all I ever heard is we don't have the, fill in the blank. I mean, I just constantly heard, we don't have enough of this. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. There was, I call it the enoughness factor. There was just never enough of anything, right? Because my mom was busy, my dad was working, a ton of kids. And back in, my generation, most people today are not having six children, they have two or three. But that was very common back then. So I don't think our parents had the attention that I did as a parent with two children. Certainly, it's very different. So I felt as an adult, I had to reprogram my mindset, because it was so full of, insecurities about myself, lack. Yeah, it was not filled with goodness about me. I'd had to do a lot of work on myself. And grateful that I have, because I feel like I have a pretty deep understanding to most people, that when I sit and talk to them, I'm like, I get it, I get it, I get it. Probably like you, I don't think we get into these industries if we haven't been through so much of our own healing to be able to help others.
Yes, and that doesn't mean that not because we are in this arena that we're already healed. I don't think
Right.
no human being in this plane that is alive it is already healed,
I totally agree with you. We're
including the Dalai
all, it's
Lama.
constant. It's just constant, right? I mean, yeah, I don't think, I wish, and I've told people that if anyone ever tells you they have it all, they know it all, go find someone else, because none of us do.
Yes,
And yet we have different tools. It's like, if I go to your toolbox and you say, Cappi, I can help you with this and this and this, yay. Come open my toolbox. I can help, with these specific things. Can I do other things besides, like, I have a really good friend. I live in Orange County, California. Where are you?
I'm in McAllen, Texas, but my mother was raised in Orange County. My grandmother,
Oh,
we have
okay,
family
really?
over there.
So I work with a group of just incredible human beings at the Laguna Wellness Center. So there's many practitioners there. And once a month we have a health fair, and there's so many different people, that do everything you could ever think of. It's a pretty big community. And it's so wonderful, because I'm having some just personal challenges right now. And I just walk in there and I'm like, I need to see you. I need to sit with you, and we all help each other. And then one of the ladies came to me and she said, my husband, who I've known these people for 20 years, she said, my husband, him, blah, 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 he smokes. He just smoked for whatever. And he got not a great diagnosis at the doctor. So I said, I'll do that. I haven't done a smoking cessation, and I can't even tell, because a lot of not, people don't smoke too much or around me or whatever anymore. It's not a thing. But I said, yeah. So we did a session, and he has smoked for 50 years. He's never been able to stop more than 3 days. And he's been smoke free now for 6 weeks, I think. And I did a 2-hour session, and cleared a bunch of stuff out of him. And he's like, I don't know what you did, but this is incredible. So I always appreciate seeing the outcomes and the results for the client, but that's not what I go around and, you know, do anymore. But I did thousands of them back in the day. But I love knowing that that's how powerful, not me, but his subconscious is, to go from something of 50 years, and through the power of suggestion, he's like, Cappi, I'm a smoke-free man. Well, I guess, I kept telling him that through the session. And he's like, it's incredible. Like, I have freedom now. And all the things he's saying were exact. And he's listening to that CD, 5 times a day. Mm.
Funny, I did went with a friend that is a hypnotherapist. Like I am a smoker, and I told him, okay, help me with this. It is the request of everybody that I stop smoking. I enjoy it so much, but okay, let's try it. Of course, it didn't work. And
Oh,
then I started asking myself why it didn't work. It's because I was doing what everybody wanted, not what I
mhm.
really wanted.
Right, right,
So that's
right.
why it didn't work. I'm not criticizing his work. I'm just saying why
Yes.
it didn't work. You have to want to.
I would agree. I would agree. And I go through a pretty heavy duty pre-talk. And if they're not ready, I won't do it. And that's the thing. It's not up to me. I'm not the one that has the problem or the the challenge, right? And I would say that applies to any topic. So when people companies hire me, or individuals or executives or whatever, I do a lot in the success money arena. And it's funny because sometimes people will say, Cappi, I make enough money, but my life sucks. I go home and I'm drinking every single night, or I'm so stressed in my marriage, or my kids are, miserable. So it's kind of fascinating when you get behind the scenes of what somebody might perceive as somebody successful. Like you said, we're all working on something. And it's just, where is the individual? So like in chapter 1 of my book, it's like, pick one thing you want to work on, and it could be anything, but everyone's in a different place, right? Everyone's in a different place. So like you say, you have to have the desire internally to say, I want this thing to occur. I want to be smoke-free forever. Like, I don't want to quit smoking. I want to be a smoke-free human being on the planet that lives in the consciousness of light. And I don't want smoke around me, right? I don't want to keep poisoning myself with that or whatever it is. So I like the outcome of hypnosis. I really do. It's very fun to watch.
I was reading your webpage that is very interesting, that is going to be under the description of this video, guys, so everybody can go and check it out. But I was checking in there that you work mainly with you have different programs
I do.
in there. Can you talk a little bit about the programs that you were that you have available in there?
Yeah. And I'll tell you why I started doing this, Monica. For years, I sat in a little office and, would get clients through, doing things, hand them a little cassette tape back in the day, and they'd walk away. And half the time, I don't even know what I said on the cassette because, like, we're in a dark, nicely lit room, and, I'm talking and it's just kind of pouring out of me. I never read scripts or anything. And then I'd hand them the little cassette tape, and then they'd call me, or back then, call me on the phone and say, Cappi, how did you know to say that? And I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. I didn't even know really too much about channeling. I mean, I knew about Seth back then, but I didn't really think too much about it. I just kind of of course, I took classes and I went to school and all that. But again, learning to trust myself, right? So for instance, if I would see somebody, and all of a sudden I'm like in a truck, and I'm like, okay, imagine you're in a truck and you're driving down the highway, and I start talking. They're like, how'd you know that my dad was a truck driver? Stuff like that happened all the time. So after I started handing cassette tapes, I helped a lady make a ton of money, and she was in sales. And she said, Cappi, you really need to help other people. You've been in sales, you're a single mom, you know the stress of making your own income and all that. And I said, yeah. And she said, why don't you make a program and help people like you've helped me? She'd been in her business maybe 20 years. She was a lot older than me at the time. And I got her producing over $500,000 back then, in personal income a year, which back then that was a lot of money. So she said, let's do this for other people. I said, I don't even know where to begin. We didn't have the internet. And so I went in and paid a recording studio, and I made my first little program. It took me, gosh, probably almost a year to make it, because I had to edit it and I had to find music and write all the copy. And again, you had to pay people to do all that stuff. So I made my first system, and then I went into a talk and I held up the CDs and I made the workbook. And again, nobody really taught me. I just figured it out. So it took me a year. And then people just started buying them like hotcakes. And I was like, oh, I'm on to something. So in that program, it was a 7-week coaching program. It was called the seven inner strategies to successful selling. So each week I talked about a different topic. I talked about stress reduction. I talked about people's relationship with money, their success image, their habits, their habitual patterns, like people don't like picking up the phone or cold calling or whatever. So I got into kind of like their inner objections, right? How do you overcome those kinds of things? So what I noticed through that system, Monica, was at week 7, or during the 7 weeks, one of the weeks we talked about money. It was my least attended class. I started hearing the same thing. So I started making jokes going, I need to make just a program for money, because people are paying me money for this and they want more money. And then the money conversation, and guess what? The people, my own discovery, that showed up were the people making the money. The people that weren't did not want to talk about it. They didn't want to hear about it. I call it money, avoidance. They just want to avoid talking, looking, and being with money. And then they wonder why they don't have any. So I would start to notice this every time the money, and I had hundreds of people on that call. And all of a sudden it would drop down to like 30 people. And I'm like, wow, these are the people that get on and talk about money. Yeah, I have an investor. I've got a, they were all the people making the money, but I saw the numbers just blew me away. So then I started interviewing people that made a lot of money. And I said, can I interview you about your money mindset? I want to learn, how you thought, how were you raised? What do you believe? So I interviewed, I think, 21 of the top money making professional people I could find. And I just did all this data. And then I made a program called Mental Money Mastery. And it was all through my research, through watching what people did and didn't do, through increasing my own income, changing my own lack, limiting horrible money beliefs to very abundant ones, which was and is still a journey. So I learned how to make programs and products, and then people started getting all kinds of results. I have thousands of testimonials of people that I've helped increase their income. So when I started to see that program I made back in 08, it's on my website. I still charge what I originally charged. It's $695, I think. And it is just a game changer. So I address people's current relationship with money. They listen to a session, they do the workbook. Where are they? How do they feel? And then in week 2, I go to all the past programming, and then we clear it and start to do some different belief work in the subconscious. And then in week 3, I future pace them. And it's like, what will it feel like? What will it look like? And I think that's what a lot of people try to jump to, the future pacing and visualizing and affirmations. And those often get people frustrated because they don't understand what's in there in the first place. So I often say, you've got to dig some of that stuff out before you put the new in. So Mental Money Mastery it's on my website. It's still there. It's a video. You watch me, you get download the workbook, you get all the audios. I coach you through the workbook. So it's very interactive. It's a game changer. And then after I did that, I had people coming to me and saying, would you do more on this topic in sales? And so then I made a program called the Secrets to Subconscious Selling, how to sell, because that was it is my audience. So I don't go and be like, oh, buy my stuff. It's funny because I'm talking about sales and I'm not like a hard sell or got to close. I learned all those techniques. I don't feel that they work. I don't think people want to purchase that way. I think people will buy what they value. So my stuff goes from, my book on Amazon. We don't make money on books. They're there for education and information. You can get it for $20 or on Kindle for 12 or whatever. So I have things from the low range where people want to get started. And then to work with me one-on-one, of course, is my kit and caboodle. And that's a 90-day much higher end program for people. And then the online programs, I call them buy me in a box. You can go, I think I have a free workbook on my website that if they download the workbook, it will send them a link right now. One of the programs on my website is $197. And if they get that free download, then they get a special link to have that $197. We dumped it down to $37. And that's called Exploring Your Money Mindset. So we did that through the holidays and it's still up. So, I try to provide really good information, and then the sessions are where the power is, right? And then, I do a free Zoom once a month. I have a Facebook group. I try to provide information, and then I get asked to speak, on events. And I have a big corporation, a very big corporation right now I'm working with, and we're about 90% of the way in. So that'll be a really great thing this year. So yeah, just good stuff is always occurring and unfolding.
Yes, something that the movie or the book, The Secret, it was great, amazing. It might work for the minimum people, but not the majority of people, because it was missing so many parts of it.
Yes, of course.
And the parts that I feel that it was missing in at least in my case, because everybody's different, it was, if we don't feel we deserve it or we're enough.
Mhm.
We're
I would
not gonna, it's not gonna come out to us.
I think that is the core, kind of what I said earlier, the enoughness factor, right? I'm not good enough, smart enough. I don't have enough. I'm not whatever. I'm old enough, young enough, whatever. And I would agree. It boils down to our worth. I think that my children, who are now 30 and 27, they don't have those same insecurities because I did hypnobirthing with my younger daughter, and I'd play tapes in their room at night for them. And they have a lot of confidence, and I'm like, wow, that is a gift, to be able to give our children or our young people that inner belief in themselves, because it's we spend our whole adult life trying to fix what we didn't get through that lack, and that lack of worthiness. And it's funny, sometimes I was doing an event many years ago, and this guy was in the audience, and I came out, and my hair is kind of long and whatever, and I was much younger, and he says something like, well, what would you know about that? And I thought, wow, isn't it interesting how people judge us based on, how my physical appearances or was that day or whatever. And it was so loud. And then, of course, everybody starts laughing. And I said, and I didn't know where he was sitting, or it was a pretty big audience. And I said, I would know a lot about that. And how interesting that you don't know me yet. And I just got really real with everyone in the audience. I said, you don't even know me yet. I haven't even opened my mouth. But inside your head, this is why we're going to talk about mindset. You've already made an assumption about me. Isn't that interesting? And we all do it. And everybody was just like, I'm shutting up, right? And so it's the power of, look at how you're willing to sit and judge and then say something out loud, be a heckler. How would what would you know about stress? Or I'm like, dude, you want me to dump out my my laundry basket right here? But it is, I think, the journey of healing and feeling better, being able to help other people do that. You have to go through it in order to be good at it. Because when someone's on a stage and they're not, or they're not authentic. I mean, I know this lady, I don't know her anymore. I mean, I know of her, but her husband makes, he's a doctor, and and she gets up there and, oh, well, I helped, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm a single mom. I don't have an income. My ex doesn't pay my bills. I put 2 kids through college. Like, I've worked my tail off. Nobody bought me my first car or my first house, or I did it all. And so I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but for me, the minute she started talking about her success, I was like, I want to learn from her, because it's not. How easy to be successful when somebody's paying all your bills and you're married to somebody that, but again, I feel like I like to learn from people who are very real. I can't stand the phony BS that's out there today. And there is a lot of it. Everyone's a coach, which is fabulous for the entrepreneurs, but to filter through that. And I talked to Corey, I think that's where I met you through. I'm just so tired of the fluff and you want to hear my story for 20 minutes? No, I really don't. I want to know how you're going to help me.
You're so right. Right now is one of the biggest industries that is growing. And you asked in my podcast, I met many people, and okay, what it took you here? Oh, well, I just retired and I wanted to do something with my life, so I became a coach. Oh, what certifications you have? No, life experience. It's like, what are you gonna do when someone is suicidal, or when
Yes.
someone is being raped, or is being something
Yes.
that it is very deep
Yes.
and very painful? You
Yep.
don't know what to do. Your
Yep.
life experience have never take you there. So how you're gonna help someone like that? Please go back and take some
Right.
classes, some
Right.
certifications or something.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for that kind of people, it hurt the rest of the community.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you. And I think it's even more important now to really have that, credibility. And, people will call me and they say, Cappi, have you heard of blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no, I haven't heard of every person. There's millions of people out there. but find the person who resonates with you. Just because I'm great for someone doesn't mean, everyone's going to love me or you're great. Like their energy or their frequency might be different. And, I go through the process just like I did with that guy to stop smoking. I go through a pretty heavy duty intake process with my clients too, because I want them to get the outcome. I want them to get the results. I don't want them to invest their time and money with me if it's not this, if somebody's just barely learning, I'm like, go start with my book. If somebody's more evolved and they've done a lot of work and they're like, oh, I've done this, it's like, let's go. It's so easy to just hop into, deeper levels of outcomes and whatever they're working on.
It's,
But just
it's
go
because
ahead.
they may already know, okay, I find this block.
Yeah,
Finally find this block. So
yeah,
I need to work with this block. But someone that do not have the experience would not know what is going on in their life.
that's right. Yeah, I
That's the
agree.
difference.
I agree. And I think because we're not taught these types of things when we're young, I'm hoping part of the thing that I love about Stedman is I've done a few things that he's involved with a company called K's, and they bring personal development into high schools. So I've done a few events with him in San Diego, and it's just we need more personal power in our young people in our education system. I think it's just such a big missing component. I mean, when my kids were in school, I used to get so frustrated. I helped in the classes because I was like, I don't know what these people are, teaching my kids or telling them and how they're talking to them. And so I would go in and volunteer and help, and I would kind of coach the teachers, like, this is how I show my daughters and this is what I do. And I'm so grateful I did that because it really did, they say, Mom, or all of our friends therapists, they live together, they're roommates. And it's just so funny because they have all these friends and they're, great life. They both work at colleges. They're just
And
remarkable women.
in that time, the when we were young, the ones that they wanted to be teachers, at least it was a profession. They really want to become teachers.
Yes.
But
Yes.
now people are becoming teachers because that's the only job after university. They're not going to find a job in whatever career they study. So it's like, okay, I have to become a teacher, but no, that's what they really want to do.
Right. Right. Right.
Those are the teachers of our kids now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
I'm I'm
hurting
glad my
us.
kids are grown. Oh my goodness, especially after COVID. I
Right.
think the world's changed so much. I believe that our consciousness for the average individual and probably most of the people watching your show, they're open, they're receptive, they're seekers, they're light workers, they're healers. I think that this is becoming a very awesome, great conversation. And thank you for putting this into the world because I've done it in a way from the corporate angle, but it really gets deep and it is very personal. But that wasn't, I would say, if I could have chose it, I wouldn't have. I used to tell my mom, how do I take something that's so out there and make it professional and package it in a way that once I get in, then I can really start to deliver. And then the company sees the outcomes. They see the stress go down. They see the sales go up. They are like, who is this girl? But it was a very hard journey to position and discover that. But when I did the stop smoking and I had the little private practice, it was exhausting. I would go home at the end of the day and do, 5 or 6 clients and then they get the outcome. And then I got to find new people to sit in the chair and, making money was challenging. I didn't know how to monetize everything. So it took me many years to be able to, create the programs and the products and then go speak and share a link. And now, of course, the online thing I've tried. I'm not very techy. I don't have like this massive following. I don't get on Facebook and TikTok, and I'm not a social media person. And I often say, I've been on thousands of stages. I've opened for Deepak Chopra in 2015. I go do events with Stedman Grant. I mean, I've been on I've opened 5,000 people down to 50. I've been doing this a very, very long time. So now that everything's technology driven, this is fabulous too. But I kind of laugh when people go, well, what's this? And what's your following? I'm like, okay, I've been on more stages than most people have followers. but that doesn't count anymore. So unless you're, have a huge brand or whatever, but it is a very crowded market now. So speaking's different. Now people ask you to pay them to speak. I'm like, what are you talking about? I have a keynote fee. It's $10,000. I don't pay people to get on stages, and I never have. So, but the models change so much now that it's all backwards. And I think because everybody's wanting to sell products, and they're this, and let me tell you my story. So I was doing this before that was a thing. And I really was one of the very few women out there. And one of the things I noticed was it's mostly men in the personal development. You got Tony Robbins, you got Deepak Chopra, it's all men. And guess who the biggest buyers are? Women. Bob Proctor. And I mean, I know all those people. I mean, not like I hang around with, but and like The Secret, at least, that was, more women were involved. But traditionally in the speaking world, it has been mostly men. So I even saw a niche for myself back then. I'm like, well, women are the ones that are consumers of this stuff. Why are there not more women? So I'm starting to see that, which I really love, because I think we all learn from each other, and we do things different than men. Men and women have different brains. I mean, all the studies and research, one's not better or wrong or right, but we are different. We connect different, we communicate different, our needs are different. And so I really saw an opportunity for myself as a woman, as a single mother, as a entrepreneur, that could speak to other women from, the challenges of the growth and the struggles, and then getting on the other side of that, which that's where we all hope to do, is be able to create those things and get on the other side of it. So it's been a journey.
No, thank you. Thank you for doing that, because we were needing women then to open the doors for the women now.
I would agree.
And thank you for doing that, because yes, and it's still this market, there's still in 2024 that we're coming now,
Mhm.
there's still the big names are still men. They're
Yes,
not women.
I would agree. I would
And
agree. I mean, Oprah's probably the biggest woman
yeah,
name, right? But when you really look at this profession in particular, I mean, yeah, not, I mean, and yeah, there's just not a lot of them, and
but
it's weird.
unfortunately, if you go to any group of spiritual people or people that are working on the personal development, you're gonna find now women.
Yes,
There's just gonna be a few men in there.
yes.
And we need those men in now in there, because they need to start
Yeah.
working with themselves so we can really create the change in the world that we want.
I 100% agree. Yes, it is all women, right? Like we're definitely, that's what I mean. We're the one consumers of it. We're the teachers of it. We're the learners and livers of it. It's not a ton of men, but yet those are the 20 men out there that have these big brands and names. I'm like, what are we doing wrong here? We do need more women voices out there. I truly believe. So I think that that's been part of my own success and my own observation. And even as a young girl, going on some of these big stages, like guys would be gross or inappropriate or try to, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not here for that. I'm here for the people out there. And it was kind of, I call it behind the curtain. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, you kind of see the lack of integrity, or then they get up on a stage and they act all shiny. And I'm like, wow, you were just in here with your, you know, whatever, doing inappropriate things while your wife's sitting out there. Like it's wild to me, And so I really tried to stay away from a lot of that and not get too caught up. And I always said, my soul, myself got called to do this. I didn't pick this job, I don't think, or career or path, whatever, but I love that I'm here. But I wasn't out there to prove myself. I wasn't out there to get approval or get liked, or I was out there to deliver data and information that I knew could change people's lives. And I always tell people, when you go speak, never make it about you. It is always about the audience. What do they get? And that's why I'm saying, like, go get my free workbook. Like, start with, one topic if you want to create a change. I always say people want to create, oh, I want a relationship. I want to make money. I want this. Well, pick one and get good at it. and then move on to the next thing. And when you're focused on one thing in your mindset, you're programming everything around that one thing. It you outcomes much quicker than trying to do 10 different things, changing this, changing that. People end up giving up. I mean, here we are, it's only January 9th, and people probably, how many people wrote goals or even read them? And, by the mid-January, people already forget it's a new year. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes, that is true.
Mhm.
But I'm so happy that Corey Brier is the one that presents us. I love the community of Blue
I
Talks.
do too.
Amazing. I have participated a bunch of times
Oh, good.
speaking in there, and I highly recommend it.
Oh, I love Corey. He interviewed me on his podcast a few years ago, and we just had such an amazing connection. And then I went to the UCLA event and met him there, and we went to lunch. And
I
yeah,
was
he has just become such a dear
I
friend.
was there in February in
Oh,
UCLA with in Blue
oh.
Talks.
Mm. I only popped in for lunch, and him and I went to lunch, and then I left. So I was only in the room maybe an hour, and then we broke for lunch and went to lunch, and I left. I had another appointment, but yeah, I was happy I got to meet him in person because we're always on Zoom, and I've been on a lot of things with him. And yeah, he actually he just did a video for me on my book. He's like, Cappi, I'm obsessed with your book. He showed, and he did a YouTube video for me, like a book endorsement. And so he is just delightful. Yeah, he's got a lovely audience. So yeah.
Yes, he's one of the good guys in the.
I told him that. I said, Corey, you better stay this way because he really is. He's a special soul. So very grateful that he connected us.
Yes,
You'll be seeing more of me if you're in that community because I'm getting more involved. And I think I'm going to be speaking at the next UCLA one in February. I think I'll be speaking there on sales and how to pitch or something. I don't know what he wants me to talk about, but
oh, that's great. I'm gonna be in Los Angeles in an art exhibit in February.
oh, nice. Okay, well, maybe we'll get to meet in person. I would love that.
Yes, it's been
Fabulous.
really my pleasure to get to know you and to have this conversation with you. And all the information is gonna be in the description down below. So like that, you can get a hold of her too, and you also get to know her too.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it.
Thank you very much, Cappy. It was really my pleasure.
Thank you so much. You have a beautiful day. And to all of your audience, just I always say, what you come from, not what you're going to, you'll get there a lot faster. So pay attention to what you're coming from today.
Thank you. And
Thank
thank you for you to be seeing us. And please, if this video help you, please share it with your friends. We will appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.